and welcome to this month's parent training on the functions of behavior.
I'm Valerie Forte.
And I'm Brittany Boganski, and we're very excited to have you guys a part of our parent training.
Today, we'll be talking about what causes someone's behavior, or what the function of the behavior is. So first, we will be talking about why do we behave the way that we do. Then, we'll talk about the functions of the behavior that is emitted. And then, we will go over some examples. And then finally, we will talk about how do we treat the behaviors based on the function. All right, you ready? Let's begin. All right, now we're going to talk about why we behave. So we behave to get something like attention or candy or anything that are reinforcing or any reinforcing items. So some examples of this can be food, toys, activities. So we behave also to avoid or to get away from non-preferred activities, sounds, people, and environments. This is called avoidant behavior. So why do we do the things that we do? We may cry because we ate all of our muffins and there's no more left. We may cry because we really want mom or dad's attention. And we may avoid our chores, like washing the dishes. We may also do things because it feels good. So we might be looking at ourselves in the mirror, or we might even be dancing. All right, it's time for active student responding question number 1, or also known as ASR number 1. So we all behave to A, get something or get away from something, or B, to gain attention. All right. Well, if you said letter A, then you are correct. We all behave to get something or get away from something. All right. Now let's take a look at the functions of the behavior, or why the person is engaged in this behavior. There can be multiple functions of behavior. The person can engage in a certain behavior to gain attention, whether it's positive or negative attention, or even to gain access to an item or an activity. This would be a tangible item or activity. Another function, or why the person engages in certain behaviors, can also be to escape or avoid an aversive stimulus. So an aversive stimulus is something that we do not like. This means that they may engage in certain behaviors to get out of or to not engage in talking to someone or escape certain person or place or even a thing or even an activity. And finally, the last function could be automatically reinforcing. This means that the behavior they are engaged in is internally reinforcing to that person. So what that means is that it feels good to them when they are engaged in this behavior. All right, so how do we determine the function of the behavior? So there are many different ways that we can do this. We're going to talk about 3 of them today. So the first one is to collect ABC data. So ABC data collection consists of looking and tracking what the behaviors occur directly before, which is your antecedent, the targeted behavior, which is your B in that behavior, and then what happens directly after that targeted behavior happens, which is your C, that consequence. So what we are doing directly before they are engaged in the behavior, so let's say, talking on the phone or, placing a demand, eating ice cream. Those would all be your antecedents. And then the targeted behavior B could be hitting or kicking, crying, or even screaming. So then, lastly, what we would record then is the consequence. So what happened directly after that behavior was emitted? So did they get attention for that behavior? Was the task avoided? Did they not engage in that task? Or did they even get ice cream? Or did they get a reinforcer or a preferred item after that behavior was emitted? So next, we're going to talk about a functional analysis. So this is another way that we can determine what the function of the behavior is. This is a more contrived analysis, and there are various settings and conditions that we do practice this under. So for an example, the first condition could be an attention condition. So what happens during this condition is if the target behavior does occur, then we provide attention in the form of verbal statements. So let's say if the targeted behavior is the child's hitting, if they do hit the person that is in the room with them, attention would be provided. So they would say, please don't do that, or that's not safe, or I don't like that. So, and that tests to see if the behavior then occurs more often when the attention is provided. So another condition is the escape condition. So when we test the behavior in the escape condition, we would be completing a task. So let's say, we told the child to touch their head. So instead, the child engaged in that target behavior of hitting the staff. Then we would say, okay, you don't have to complete the task. So you don't have to touch your head. That's okay. And the task is removed. So if the behavior, we would want to see then if the behavior does increase. Then we have the tangible condition. So we would provide a preferred tangible when the target behavior occurs. So when the child does hit, we would give them then the tangible item that they like. And then they have the alone condition. So, or this is also called the ignore condition. So the therapist either watches or is in the room with the client. If the target behavior occurs, the therapist would ignore. We are testing to see if the target behavior still occurs even if no attention or escape or tangible items are provided. After each condition has been tested several times, the data is then analyzed to see what condition or conditions the target behavior occurs in most. With that, if they occur in those most behaviors, that's how we find what the function of the behavior actually is. Then we have functional assessments. So these are detailed interviews that we have with parents, close relatives, or even teachers. We also do direct observations to gather information on each targeted behavior. Okay, let's take a look at some examples. So Sue Bob starts crying and hitting Mom while Mom is on the phone. What do you think the function of Sue Bob's crying behavior is? Well, if you said attention, you are correct. Sue Bob is engaging in crying and hitting behaviors to get her mom's attention. She probably is doing this because in the past, crying and hitting immediately got her mom's attention. All right, let's look at another one. So, while driving in the car, Billy's parents pass by an ice cream shop. Billy starts crying and kicking the seat in front of him. What do you think the function of Billy's crying behavior is? Well, if you said tangible or to get something, you are correct. Billy wants ice cream. Therefore, he cries and kicks the seat when passing the ice cream shop. Billy is likely doing this because in the past, when he cried and kicked his seat, Billy's parents turned around and went to the ice cream shop. All right, let's look at another one. So, when presented with a task, Jimmy hits the table and starts screaming. What do you think the function of Jimmy's hitting the table and screaming behavior is? Well, if you said avoidance or to get away from something, you are correct. Jimmy hit the table and started screaming to avoid the task that was presented. Jimmy is likely doing this because in the past, when he hit the table and screamed, the task was delayed or even taken away altogether. Okay, let's take a look at some more examples. So Kim jumps up and down while watching her favorite movie. What do you think the function of Kim's jumping up and down behavior is? Well, if you said automatic or sensory, then you are correct. Kim is doing this behavior because it feels good to her. Let's look at example number 2. So Rick's parents are watching TV. Rick starts throwing his toys across the room. What do you think the function of Rick's throwing behavior is? Well, if you said attention, you are correct. Rick's parents were attending to the TV and not him, so he threw his toys to gain his parents' attention. In the past, Rick has likely gotten attention, even if it was negative attention from his parents when he has thrown toys. All right, let's look at example number 3 on this slide. All right, we're looking at Emily. Emily is shopping with her son, and he starts crying because he wants a toy. Emily buys him the toy. What do you think the function of Emily's buying her son a toy behavior is? Well, if you said escape, you are correct. In the past, when Emily has given her son what he wanted, he has stopped engaging in negative behaviors. Therefore, Emily brought him the toy to stop or escape him from crying. All right, let's look at the last example. Tanner started crying while shopping in the store with his mom when he saw a toy. What is the function of Tanner's crying behavior? If you said tangible, you are correct. Tanner saw the toy, wanted to begin to cry, and Tanner saw the toy and he wanted to begin to cry. It's likely that in the past, Tanner cried because he wanted something. He would then be given that item. All right, ASR question number 2. If you look at the picture, you can see this woman is ripping up what appears to be her work. What is most likely the function of her behavior? Is it A, attention? Or is it B, escape/avoidance? Well, if you said B, you are correct. The function of her behavior of ripping up the work that she needs to do is escape and avoidance.
All right, knowing the function of a behavior. When we know the function of the behavior, this can help us treat the behavior correctly. If the function of the behavior is attention, when treating the behavior, one would want to ignore the target behavior until an appropriate behavior occurs. Once the appropriate behavior occurs is when you would then want to provide lots of attention to the appropriate behavior that is omitted. When the function of the behavior appears to be reinforced by tangible items, you want to wait until the individual is calm and then prompt an appropriate way to ask for that item, and then you can provide the item. When the function of the behavior is escape or avoidance, it is important to keep the task or demand in place, to not let them escape. You want them to follow through with the task or the demand and complete it entirely. When the function of behavior is automatic or sensory, One way to treat this behavior is to block the behavior from occurring without providing any additional attention. All right, so now what can we do? So going back to our examples from earlier, now what can we do in response to these behaviors now that we know the function? So for Sue Bob, when Sue Bob starts crying and hitting mom while mom is on the phone, we know that Sue Bob wants her mom's attention, but is trying to get it in an inappropriate way. So what we want to do is ignore Sue Bob's inappropriate attempts to gain mom's attention and wait until she is calm or engaging in a different appropriate behavior and provide lots of attention for being calm or for engaging in the appropriate behavior. We can also teach Sue Bob the appropriate way to gain mom's attention. While driving in the car, Billy's parents pass by an ice cream shop. Billy starts crying and kicking the seat in front of him. We know that Billy wants the tangible of ice cream, but is engaging in inappropriate behaviors to gain access to that ice cream. We want to ignore Billy's crying and kicking behavior. Then when Billy is calm, we want to teach him an appropriate way to ask for the ice cream. When presented with a task, Jimmy hits the table and starts screaming. We know that Jimmy wants to escape his task, but is engaging in inappropriate behaviors to do so. We want to try breaking the task down to smaller, easier to manage portions. We could also want to try to teach Jimmy to ask for a break or ask for help when he needs it. All right, continuing with more examples. Kim jumps up and down while watching her favorite movie. We know that Kim's jumping up and down behavior is because it feels good to her. So it's automatically or sensory maintained. So we could try and block the jumping up and down and redirect her to sitting appropriately. We can then teach Kim the appropriate times to get up and jump up and down, which would be while music's playing. Rick's parents are watching TV. Rick starts throwing his toys across the room. We know that Rick was throwing his toys to gain his parents' attention. We could try to block the throwing behavior, if possible, without providing any vocal or social attention. When he is calm, we would then teach him how to appropriately gain parents' attention. Emily is shopping and her son starts crying because he wants a toy. Emily buys him the toy. We know that Emily bought her son the toy to stop him from crying or to escape from his crying. What Emily could do is ignore the crying. Once he is calm, she can teach him how to appropriately ask for the toy. Tanner started crying while shopping in the store with his mom when he saw a toy. We know that Tanner started crying to gain access to a tangible item. We want to ignore Tanner's crying behavior. Once he is calm, we can teach Tanner how to appropriately ask for the item. So, why is it important to treat behaviors based on function? We don't want to accidentally reinforce a challenging behavior. During homework, Sam is always asking for help and talking about how he can't do it. It's too difficult for him. Parents then provide lots of attention, trying to help Sam. Sam has no problem completing his work currently in school. At home, however, he complains and he gets lots of attention. This then increases complaining at home and also decreases the completion of homework at home. To decrease an inappropriate behavior, we want to increase or teach an alternative behavior that serves the same purpose. We could teach Sam that he can ask for attention in appropriate ways. We can also teach Sam to break the task down and ask for help if needed. All right, I hope everyone's excited. It is game time. We are going to play a little game called WTF. TF, which means what's the function? All right, so we have what's the function? Scenario number 1. Crystal is sitting in class twirling her hair, listening to her professor lecture on the functions of behavior. So, what is the function of Crystal's hair twirling behavior? If you said automatic or sensory, you are correct. Crystal's hair twirling her hair behavior is likely because it feels good to her. All right, scenario number 2. Peter worked all day, then attended class. He planned on cooking dinner for his wife when he got home. He asked his wife if she'd rather go out to eat. What's the function? If you said escape or avoidance, you are correct. Peter had a long day and wanted to avoid cooking dinner. Therefore, he came up with a more preferred alternative of going out to eat. All right, scenario number 3. You guys are doing great. Kyle's riding in the car with his dad and his little sister. When his sister starts to cry, Dad tries to comfort his sister by talking to her. Kyle starts crying that his toy fell on the floor. Dad lets him know that he will get it when they stop. Kyle continues to cry for Dad and starts throwing his cup and other items that are close by. What's the function of Kyle's behavior? If you said attention, you are correct. Kyle's dad was giving his sister attention. Kyle then wanted his dad's attention as well and began engaging in inappropriate behaviors to gain his dad's attention. All right, scenario number 4. Missy wants a cookie. She asks for a cookie and is told that she must wait until after dinner. Missy then throws her iPad and starts screaming. Missy is then given the cookie. What's the function of Missy's behavior? If you said tangible, you are correct. Missy asked for the cookie appropriately, but was told that she needed to wait. Then she began to engage in inappropriate behaviors to gain access to the cookie. All right, scenario number 5. Jennifer is doing her homework and is getting some help from her dad. The doorbell rings. Dad goes and answers it. He starts talking to the neighbor at the door. Jennifer starts calling out for her dad. Dad goes and helps her quick, then returns to the neighbor. Jennifer then starts asking her dad for a drink, then for some food, and then for help again. What's the function of Jennifer's behavior? If you said attention, you are correct. Jennifer was working with her dad, and then his attention got diverted to the neighbor. She then began excessively trying to gain her dad's attention. All right, scenario 6. Mark is in a meeting that has lasted about 2 hours so far. Lynn notices that Mark has been clicking his pen several times throughout the meeting. Lynn asks Mark if he is aware of what he is doing. He says no, but stops clicking his pen. What's the function of Lynn's behavior? If you said the function of Lynn's behavior was escape, you are correct. Lynn wanted to escape Mark's excessive clicking behavior. What's the function of Mark's behavior? If you said the function of Mark's behavior was automatic or sensory, you are correct. Mark was likely engaging in the pin clicking behavior because it feels good. All right, our last scenario. Bill smiles while walking into the room and seems to be in a good mood overall. Once the music begins to play, Bill begins to hit himself and others. The staff working with him decides that this type of behavior should not be rewarded and that he should not get to listen to music, so he is moved into another room. This has begun to happen regularly. What's the function of Bill's behavior? If you said escape, you are correct. Bill began to hit himself and others to escape the music class because he knew that they were going to remove him if he hurt someone else and himself. All right, if you have any questions, please contact your child's BCBA. You can also contact myself, Brittany Boganski, at brittanyb@thepeacefits.com.
Or you can contact me, Valerie Forte, at valerief@thepeacefits.com. Thanks for participating.
We hope you guys enjoyed our presentation. Have a great day.